लास्ट एक चले हाँ और थोड़ा से चले दो लास्ट के होता है जो बताने का तेरा नाम ही नहीं सकता ऐसा प्रिंटिंग इतने भाई फरवरी में फोन भूल गया मास्क भी भूल गया कोई मेरा भूल गया हां अजीब है क्या है बहुत ही तो ठीक है तो मार जीवा फोन दिया सही और करें यार एक दो इसको एक ये समझते ये कुछ ही नहीं इसमें क्लास में आता है नहीं करेगा दो क्लास में ये मेरा है बस पहनी है नहीं है भिखारी मैं पता है होगा क्या है मैं दो बुक लेके आया इससे एक मैथ्स और एक इसका आज सोलर बायो के पता तेरी फेवरेट टीचर वहां पर इधर बैठेगा मैच नहीं थी वहां पर आज नहीं इधर बैठ अरे अगला बैठने वाला आज इधर बैठ जाएगा उसको बताया कि क्लास है ऐसे समझ में सच नहीं है ना क्या सच नहीं सच ही है अच्छा उतरो नहीं कर दिया नीरज से मुझे आवाज की है नीरज जी का बात छोड़ दिया क्या लिख सकते क्यों बोतल ठीक करे थी बोतल है हां यार सीबीएसई हां सीबीएसई अच्छा ये बोतल ठीक क्यों 4 महीने से पड़ी है बैंक में से फिर बाद में उसकी बात करें कितने दिए भाई नहीं उसने दे दिया बड़ी स्टोरी सुनिए लाड़ी बाई ये पानी आने वाला है क्या हमने उसको कॉल किया था उसको लगा कि सीबीएस है सीबीएस नहीं है सीबीएस नहीं हो रहा है एसएसटी है उसका हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम है इंग्लिश ना कार्ड है आया अच्छा इंग्लिश टीचर ये पहले जून में है जुलाई क्लास के बीच में क्या बोलते ये फिर रेस्ट ऑफ द क्लास हम लोग बैठते हैं सर इंग्लिश बेस्ट है कितना टाइम पास होता है इंग्लिश बोलो पढ़ा कीजिए नहीं जो शिक्षा क्या एक्स्ट्रा कुछ अलग नहीं करो अरे आपका जादू होने वाला है जादूगर किस कौन जादू आगे हाँ
Good evening. Whose is this chair? Okay, now which chapter? It has been a long time. I forgot also what we were doing in this chapter. कौन सा chapter? Which chapter we were doing? Improvement in food resources. Is that the last chapter that we have? No, natural resources left. Okay, improvement in food resources. Improvement in food resources. Okay, take out your books. Which was the last topic that we were discussing? Find out. It's been a long time, no?
हो गया अरे हो गया ऐसे चिप हो गया हां बी में तो
Give it the book. One of the books. So,
Ma'am, this chapter is over.
no, this chapter is not over. The last topic that we were discussing was
Beekeeping.
beekeeping.
Yes, हमने questions किए थे NCERT questions किए थे.
Beekeeping.
We had done UT की.
Who taught you this part?
सारे तो एक ही थी.
Beekeeping.
हाँ.
Not
Miss हाँ. Okay, Miss.
I have not started. I think I must have just started with animal husbandry in this batch.
No, ma'am.
Marine fisheries, inland fisheries, all these things I have not started with. अरे you all are coming from which place, which school? ऐसे memory लेके कैसे exam में बैठोगे? हाँ. I think only this boy remembers what is done. Most of it is in the air. हाँ. अगर हो गया होगा then you should be able to understand something. Should I ask you 5 questions from this part? हाँ.
Yes.
हो गया है you are saying, but I am meeting you after a long time. I teach 10 batches. फिर भी मुझे roughly याद है कि this is what I was doing in this batch. तुम लोग एक ही subject का याद नहीं रखते हो? कैसे? How do you remember your portions?
Ma'am, we finished with cattle farming.
I remember. We had finished only with, I think only the first part of animal husbandry that we started. Only that much only we could finish. Types of cattle and all these things, I think we were discussing only that much, no?
We have to do with words.
Let us continue with this. Now this, the first part, see there. Okay. What are the important things? I think last class I asked you to write down. Is this chapter over in school? School में which chapter going on now? Improvement हो start हो चुका है? Start हो. इसके पहले
एग्जाम अभी खत्म हुए.
नहीं, एग्जाम में क्या था? Tissues था. Only tissues were there. And cell भी था. Okay. So after the diseases, did they complete? Why do we fall in? Acha, completely deleted. Diversity, are they teaching? Completely deleted. Diversity, in some schools they are still teaching a part of it. What about it? Diversity, are they teaching a part of it or full deleted? They are saying they are teaching. In some schools they are teaching half of it. In some schools they are fully. In some schools they are teaching half of it. Diversity, okay. So let us complete this today. So cattle farming, what were the first few things we had studied? Agar notebook check karoge, then you will understand. Cattle farming mein we had understood the names first of all, no? Cattle farming mein certain names first of all. So for cattle farming, what are some of the important things to remember? The first part, if you see there, we had already talked about some indigenous and exotic breeds. Do you remember what is the meaning of this?
Yes,
indigenous matlab?
Indian.
Of our own country. So we are talking about indigenous breeds. Can you name one?
We talked about that indigenous cow. What is that called? I know.
Bos indicus.
Ma'am, one more.
One more. Sahiwal.
There was another one.
Red Sindhi, Bos bubilis. These are all Indian breeds. And exotic breeds. Name one exotic breed we studied the other day also.
Exotic.
Jersey. Jersey is an exotic. Exotic. From the word exotic, you understand it is from some other country, some other origin, some other country, and now it can be bred even in our own country. What happened? Why are you so lifeless? Huh? Pata nahi. No, hello. Good evening. बहुत time बाद. And they forgot also what has been done in the class, only except for Ayush. अच्छा. आर्या को तो पता चला. हाँ, तो आर्या और तुम लोग तो उसके
इतना ही बड़ा है.
थैंक गॉड क्योंकि वो और फिर उसमें भी और इन लोगों ने 4 मिनट और खराब किया क्योंकि कंफ्यूज्ड इतने थे. So in one word we were all waiting for you.
Appreciate it.
हाँ सबसे ज्यादा नीरज दे you came for switching on our fans
पवित्र क्रॉप कैसे नहीं कर रहे
ये चोरी हो गई ना
क्या
क्रॉस चोरी हो गई
दादी के घर से बात नानी के घर से
नहीं दादी
What's wrong with you? Crocs चोरी हो जाता है, फोन टूट जाता है. What is wrong with
तुमको
you?
याद है फोन टूट जाता है इसका अरे मैम आपकी मेमोरी बहुत शार्प है
क्या हो गया
किस दिन तुम्हारी हड्डी टूट जाएगी
हड्डी
टूटी
टूटी
थी
है
ना
वो भी टूटा हुआ है
हाँ
अरे अभी तो टूटा था
हाँ
इसको
राइट
हाथ टूट
राइट
गया था
हाँ
ना।
हाँ फैशन
देखो,
करके आता था
मैं
मुझे लगा था वो
भी-
फैशन करके आता है ऐसे चलो now you have written this name two exotic breeds name now in this chapter take out a notebook often I'll keep on giving questions in this chapter hardly there's any concept to understand but बहुत सारी चीज याद रखना है so हाँ देखो तुम्हारे आते एक जन के मुंह में जिसके चेहरे पे मुस्कान आ जाती है वो है नीरज हाँ? क्या कारनामा किया अभी उसने
अभी बताइए दे
चलो चलो नोटबुक तुम लाए कि वो भी भूल गए क्यों पेन
पेन चाहिए
मतलब तुम क्यों आए हो क्यों आए हो
मैं
तुम
बहुत जल्दी में आया हूँ
चलता
मेरे
है
पास
मुझे डार्क पेन चाहिए
अरे मेरे को दे यार आपको पेन देना
बहुत जल्दी में आए हो लाना क्या था एक नोटबुक और एक पेन तो लाना था नाउ यू आर डिस्टर्बिंग पवन नो पवित no I don't have to call him by any other distorted name he has a good name so by हाँ बस now keep on begging
क्या करूँ
I hope you have a notebook. Thanks. Now next is first you write down name two indigenous spellings check करो name two indigenous and two exotic breeds. Keep the हाँ topic. कल को तुम्हारा कोई भी आके बोलेगा कि now this topic is not done.
कोई भी मतलब नीरज
क्यों तुम कुछ कम हो? What is done you will say not finished. What is not finished you will say it's already over. क्या दिल को लगा था?
क्या बोले बी वाला कर लिया बट बी वाला किया है हमने
You must.
हमने आई थिंक बीच में का स्किप करके पहले बी वाला
No,
किया था
that's not at all my favorite topic. That I'll skip some other topics and I'll teach you that.
इस क्वेश्चन
Name two indigenous and exotic breeds of cattle. Name two indigenous and exotic breeds of cattle. Name two indigenous and exotic breeds of cattle. लिखो आंसर लिखो पहले. आंसर लिखो पहले. शेयर करो ना. अच्छा you are there. एक काम करो. Can you come and sit here? Or can you come and sit there? आजा. One of you give your book to the other side. After the next class, when I come, today our Sharad is also absent, so there's a new boy I have to ask him for the book. Share the book, huh? Share the book. So write down the answer for the first part. First, this part of the chapter, there'll be plenty of questions that we have to answer. All these things you'll have to remember. Answer karo. What are the answers? Indigenous is Red Sindhi. Boss Bibolis. No, cattle I asked you. Boss Indicas you can write. Bibolis also you can write. Or you can also write Red Sindhi. These are all indigenous. Exotic you'll have to write Jersey. Brown Swiss. Likho fast. Fatafat likho.
indigenous मतलब
Indian breeds.
वो आ गया नहीं ये वेरी गुड
Next question. What is meant by crossbreeding? As in when you do the questions, crossing. Likho. What is meant by crossbreeding?
like two breeds which
Can be allowed to breed. Two types, two varieties when they're allowed to breed.
different types of
पग और जर्मन शेफर्ड को ब्रीड किया तो क्या है
Yet to see क्या मिलेगा.
अजीब लगेगा
Now, that will be a distorted animal.
वैसे ऐसा कोई प्रोबेबिलिटी है क्या करके दो डॉग्स को ब्रीड किया बट फिर नहीं हो रहा
Yes,
Alag-alag.
so many times. Not necessary that two types of animals, if we try breeding and successfully, they will happen and a hybrid will be formed. Not necessary. Only when their chromosomes and DNA are quite similar, then only the process of breeding will happen. If I try breeding between the banyan and the mango, it will ever happen, but both are trees, both are well-developed trees. Nahi hoga, because there's no similarity between these two types of plants. But if I try breeding between maybe the mango and the pineapple, ho bhi sakta hai. Watermelon and pineapple, they are related. बहुत सारा relation है. So it's always related plants. Breeding becomes successful. Right on. What is meant by cross breeding? Next question. What is meant by cross breeding? Mention the significance. What is meant by cross breeding? Mention the significance. What is meant by cross breeding? Mention the significance. Your time for the 9th standard is almost getting over, no?
Yes, sir.
Happy or sad?
Sad.
Sad क्यों? तो
Sad ही है ना।
10th में जा रहे हो ना?
तो फिर
टीचर्स
जल्दी बुढ़े हो
इस टीचर्स इतने अच्छे मिले स्कूल में भाई इस नाइन के टीचर बहुत अच्छे
They don't want to leave. So कोई बात नहीं, 9th एक और बार पढ़ लो.
टीचर नहीं रहेगा
मेरा तो वही था
टीचर नहीं रहेगा बट टीचर हम लोग की नाइन का छोड़ जा
सब एक स्कूल में है, एक ही स्कूल में.
एक ही स्कूल एक ही क्लास
अरे
सब
सबसे लास्ट पावर
1 2 3 4
पाँच।
5
ये भी
ये नहीं आना
ये of course thank God.
चाहिए तो क्या क्या
I can't imagine.
कार्तिक को तो पुड़िया पढ़नी चाहिए
Next लिखो.
What
What is the significance? Answer लिखो. The process of breeding. Process of breeding. Two varieties of any animal.
अच्छा तो अलग-अलग एनिमल की तो भी ऐसे
Two varieties of an animal, meaning
of any column
related होना चाहिए. That's why I gave you examples.
of any animal
डॉग किस तरह का डॉग cat
Varieties of an animal or plants, of animals and plants, is known as crossbreeding. Full stop. Is known as crossbreeding. The process of crossbreeding,
हो गया ना
next paragraph, significance. The process of crossbreeding leads to the formation of improved or desirable, improved or desirable varieties with characters that make them better adapted to the
characters
improved characters that make them better adapted to the
after better common
better adapted to the environment.
better adaptive
Adapted to the environment. Now what is the meaning of that? What is the answer that you have written? when we are talking about crossbreeding, say suppose I talk about red Sindhi, I'm talking about say suppose Bos Indicus. No, that's a type of a variety. No, that's a type of a variety of cattle. Now, this variety of cattle may have 5 good characters and maybe another 3 bad characters in it. So why should the process of crossbreeding happen? I talk about red Sindhi on one side or Bos Indicus on one side. And this type of the cattle may be allowed to breed with maybe now the Jersey cattle or another different, any other exotic breed, which is not of our country. And here I understand that there are some 5 to 6 good characters, but maybe now 3 of the characters are quite bad, meaning they easily get affected by diseases, infection, etc., etc. And here we are understanding now, since we are talking about cattle, one of the most desirable characters remain the process of lactation, meaning how much of the yield of milk and etc. That's a major character that breeders would always select. So here again I say that now 3 to 5 good characters and maybe 2 bad characters are there. So what would the breeders try to do is, why not breeding them, and then a hybrid that we get, if I get a hybrid by the process of breeding, this hybrid may be having this and this characteristics both in the same animal. Maybe now they have a high amount of milk releasing or secretion ability also, their lifespan is long also, and they become mature at an earlier age also. So many good characters, and maybe this bad characters, just few of them come. So comparatively this is a better method, no? But is it necessary that every time you try crossbreeding and it should happen? Not necessary. So that's also a tedious process.
Like it won't happen in the
not necessarily. No, not die. Quite a number. How do we understand? How do the breeders understand that it has not happened? Meaning quite a number of times, even if the process of breeding happens and the new generation organism develop, it may happen that this new generation organism may have a very short lifespan. They may have, excuse me, सुनो ना, hello. ये जो 9 CBSE का ये वॉल्यूम 2 आता है, वॉल्यूम 2 आता है, देखो मैडम को पूछो, वॉल्यूम 2 तुमको पता है क्या कहाँ पे वॉल्यूम से? हाँ, 9 CBSE का वॉल्यूम 2 अगर है तो एक लेके, ठीक है? So now when we are talking about hybrid, so how do we understand crossbreeding has happened? If crossbreeding has happened, that the hybrid that we get to see is alive, long life, science, correct. So now when we are talking about the hybrid, alive for a long time, all the characteristics showing lactation happening, then breeding is successful. Breeding successful नहीं हुआ, कैसे समझ में आएगा? Even if you allow the process of breeding happen, no organisms are getting into existence. The birth of a new hybrid is not happening. These are not egg-laying animals, no, that we are talking about. So giving rise to young ones. So ये process हो ही नहीं रहा है. So we understand that yes, crossbreeding is not happening between these two types. Come to the next page. What do the animal feed? Now we are talking about that cattle basically are used for 2 purposes, no? What are the 2 purposes cattle are basically used for? Labor and for milk. Okay. So what are the 2 types? Now we understand. What are the 2 varieties that we talk about? Cattle can be of 2 varieties based on the type of work that we want from them. One is known as the drought varieties, which is used for labor, drought varieties, and the other is known, yes, that drought spelling is same. When you are DROUGHT, that's a different, only one letter. So now that I talk about DROUGHT, that's drought, that is the excessive dryness, a barren land that you understand. Here we are talking about drought, DRAUGHT, that is when you are talking about a type of an animal which is basically used for carrying loads, ploughing. So I talk about that the cattle, cows are used for lactation, milk secretion. So these are milch varieties. But when I talk about, say, suppose now I'm saying that the cows here are milch varieties. But what about the drought animals? I mean, understand the bulls and the ox. The ox and the bulls, these are, the ox and the bulls, these are, which page is it? 153. So now when we are talking about the ox and the bulls can we say that these are the milch varieties? No, the ox and the bulls, these are the drought variety. So what can be some of the purpose? Plowing, basically we understand, carrying loads, we understand, and milk varieties basically for secretion of milk. What type of food to give them? What type of food to give them? Underline the first word, tick the first word, roughage. Tick the first word. I mean, page number 152 now. What type of food to be given to the cattle? What type of food to be given to the cattle? The first one that we are talking about is roughage. Roughage. Roughage and concentrates. What does roughage include? See, the roughage would basically include a whole lot of straw, hay basically, a whole lot of straw. And then with legumes, underline the word, legumes. What are legumes? Do you remember? Legumes kya hai? Cereals, pea, beans, legumes. And legumes are always rich in nitrogen. So when I talk about roughage, which is a meal actually which is given to the cattle is supposed to have a meal rich in nitrogenous plant, nitrogen-rich plants. For example, the legumes. The cattle are also supposed to have a meal which would be having a whole lot of dried straw in them, rich in fiber, roughage. Straw means when you talk about the dried grasses, that is straw. And then the hay, dried grass and hay, that is the straw that you talk about. And this is just plant matter, these are just leaves actually, and rich in fiber. Plant leaves are always rich in fiber. Then what are some of the legumes? Remember, here some examples are also given. Cowpea. Do you know which is cowpea?
Cowpea.
Huh?
Gomutra.
Cowpea.
P means like
P-E-A.
Cow yellow green pea.
ये कौन सा स्कूल का रायन ना? रायन है तभी ये हाल है. बेस्ट. हाँ.
अब इस मेमोरीज बहुत अच्छी है.
नहीं, वो तो मैं देख ही रही हूँ. So now that we talk about cowpea, what is cowpea, chickpea? Now that we talk, these are different types of gram. No, these are different types of gram. So now that I talk about जो छोले हम खाते हैं, what are these called? Chickpeas and cowpeas. These are the different types of peas that you understand. हाँ, so those
cowpea basically होता क्या है मतलब?
अरे जो छोले जो खाते हो, that is what is cowpea.
मिस पहले आप बोलो chickpea होता है या वो cowpea होते हैं?
दो तरह का आता है, एक जो छोटा वाला छोले
काला और white.
That is gram, black gram, green gram. That is gram. That is not pea. That is gram.
तो pea क्या होता है?
Pea is a type of a seed.
अच्छा, pea को एक छोटा black color का आता है और एक बड़ा white color का आता है. वो
हाँ, जो हम छोले खाते हैं, छोले का दो वैरायटी आता है, एक जो बड़ा वाला काबुली चना जिसको हम बोलते हैं, और एक जो छोटा वाला वैरायटी आता है, बोथ आर काउ. अरे चना इज डिफरेंट. तो फिर वो काउपी मम्मी को जाके पूछना, किचन में है तो दिखाने के लिए. काउपी के काबुली चना का बड़ा भाई भी होता है, छोटा भाई भी होता है, सेम. अब जो चना है, चना इज अ डिफरेंट टाइप, वो कजिन है उसका. वो चना उसका कजिन हो गया. वो चना भी डिफरेंट कलर्स में आता है, ब्लैक आता है, ब्राउन आता है, ग्रीन आता है. दीज आर कॉल्ड ग्राम.
उनका क्रॉस ब्रीडिंग हुआ था
ऑब्वियसली. हाँ, तो मैंने अभी देखो किस लैंग्वेज में उसको समझाना पड़ा, भाई बहन कजिन सब, फिर भी उसको नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. सुना अभी और आया तुमको अभी समझ में? अभी तुमको आया समझ में? Hopefully. Now next is underline. So what is roughage? Roughage is a type of a meal and should be rich in legumes.
Rich in nitrogenous plants.
Oh my God. तो legumes ही तो वही एग्जाम्पल है, तभी तो मैं वही समझा रही हूँ तुमको. Should be rich in legumes. Legumes मतलब क्या? Plants which have got high content of nitrogen in them. And legumes के साथ साथ क्या? A whole content of straw should be there. So something like, if I talk about, for us also, we have got different type of meals. No, we take different type of meals. Every type of meal has got different contents in it. Say suppose now if I talk about noodles, if I talk about dal chawal, if I talk about chicken peas and chicken fish and all this, the type of nutrients are different, no, in each type of food. So that is what we are talking about for the animals also, the concentrates and the roughage, different types of food given, so that the animal not only releases good quantity, good quality of milk, but then the muscular growth also should be good for the animal. The animal should be resistant from diseases, all these things. Underline the next word, concentrates. Concentrates. Concentrate should be now low in fiber. Roughage is high in fiber. Now concentrates low in fiber, but they should have high quantity of proteins and nutrients in them. And what should be the high quantity of proteins? They should have seeds now, grains like maize, barley, jowar. All these words you have heard, no? Jowar, and then barley, and then wheat, and then maize. These are common words. So now that we are talking about, and then apart from that, the cotton seeds, the gram bran. What is the meaning of gram bran? Gram powder. Gram bran, gram powder. And then molasses. What is the meaning of molasses? Molasses means jaggery. Jaggery, you understand? Jaggery?
Good.
Good, huh? So now that we talk about molasses, so small amount of molasses should be there. Oil seeds, oil seed cake. Give me an example of oil seed. Mustard. Soya bean, oil seeds. So oil seeds. And moistened with water. Take one next question now. The third question. Write two differences between concentrates. Write two differences between concentrates and roughage given to cattle as food. Two differences. Your teacher in school, she dictates much slower than me. You dictate ही नहीं करती है. Number one. Number three. Write two differences between.
Concentrate and.
Write two differences between. Which are the two words I'm giving you now? Two differences between concentrates and roughage. Concentrates and roughage given to cattle as food. Given to cattle as food. कौन कविता को बुलाया? किसने?
उसमें आवाज ऐसा है. पानी है बगल.
अगर कविता आता नहीं तो तुम प्यास से डिहाइड्रेट होके तुम बेहोश हो जाते. You also must be carrying water, no? You don't have water with you.
उसको इस्तेमाल करना.
Huh? How many bottles of water you have? He doesn't have water only in his bag.
This is the first stage out of 3.
First stage?
First stage.
First stage. Yes. Which stage you're talking about? There are so many stages of life. Which stage you're talking about?
Stages of life. Stages of asthma. It's बहुत hard word.
वो biology की teacher है वो याद है.
Oh my god. फटाफट. Oh my god. चलो. Any you are suffering from any problem? You are
Gen Z
people.
Will you write the differences now? Chalo, fast. I'm not asking you to tell me the points at all. Who is asking you? Write two different. Chalo, column banao, fatafat. Concentrates and roughage. Two differences between concentrates and roughage. Two differences between concentrates and roughage. Number one. Number one, the first point under roughage you write. No, I will tell you. Roughage, under roughage you write. Under roughage you write. Contain high concentration of fiber. Contain high concentration of fiber. Are you write first? High concentration of fiber. High concentration of fiber and straw, comma, has high concentration of fiber and straw legumes, etc. Straw, legumes, etc. Are the main components. Straw, legumes, etc. are the main components. The other side, concentrates. Concentrates. For that you write, they contain or this contain low concentration of fiber. 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 And cotton, oats, maize, jowar, etc. Jowar, Jowar, etc. are used. Second point. Cotton, oats, barley, jowar, all these examples you can write. I'm just giving you
Jowar
2, 3.
means Jowar.
Jowar, jowar are used. Jowar, barley, cotton, oats, the other different type of fibrous plants used. Second point. Under roughage, protein content is low. Roughage has low protein, high fiber. Protein content is low. Protein content is low. Protein content is low, and fodder crops like cowpea are used. Fodder, F-O-D-D-E-R. Fodder crops like cowpea are used. Fodder crops like cowpea are used. Other side, concentrates. This has high concentration of protein. This has high concentration of protein. This has high concentration of protein. This has high concentration of protein and high concentration of protein and variety of grains. Variety of grains, oil seeds, molasses, M-O-L-A-S-S-E-S, molasses, etc. L-A-S-S-E-S, molasses, etc. are used. Okay. Now, so this is basically a question that you are asked. Roughage and concentrate is the basic difference. Now we talk about another word known as additives. What are additives? Let us try understanding. Now, say suppose for us also we eat proper breakfast and then lunch and then dinner. But apart from that also we are supposed to take in, say suppose now in our breakfast and in our lunch and in our dinner, we have a proper meal that we take. Certain specific type of foods that we take. But apart from that, all throughout the day we can take any number of maybe now 2-3 times a day. Also we can take small amounts of nuts and some dry fruits and some fruits all over. No? For that we don't have to select it's only in the breakfast time. We can take it also in the lunch time. So something like we are having our proper meal, and apart from that we take some additives. What is the meaning of additive? Now, this is suppose for small children, for elderly people. Now, for older people, for growing children, we give, apart from the proper food and fruits and dry fruits, we would also prefer to give them some nutritive drinks or some tonics. So why do we give them, especially for the older and the growing children? Because they need a whole lot of nutrients, extra nutrients also. So they're called additives. Apart from the proper cereal and the dal and the vegetable and the fish and the egg, that's a proper food. But apart from that, we believe that even if there is some amount of deficiency there in the meal, then that will be covered up by the fruits, by the tonics, etc., etc. So what are these called? Additives. And basically, additives are rich in minerals and vitamins. So whenever we are talking about additives, even the animals also has to be given additives. And at the same time, the animals also has to be given antibiotics. What are antibiotics majorly meant for? Preventing them from diseases. So that even if some minor infection they have, this infection can be ruled out, and the cattle should not be suffering from any infection. What will happen if a cattle is suffering from infection? Not necessarily. I talk about a cattle suffering from certain type of, do the cattle also suffer from some breathing problems and viral infection? Yes, they also do. But since we are dependent on the products of the cattle, something basically when we talk about milk, so these different type of poisonous secretions may also enter into the milk. And now that we animals, other animals are dependent on that, can they affect our body, our tissues? Yes, that can. So that's the reason it is when we talk about animal breeding, keeping the animal free from disease is also important. Come to the next part. I'll give you a break after something. Let me complete with this. Underline the word vaccination there. Can you see vaccination? Now the word vaccination you are very much aware. What is vaccination? Vaccination means we are taking a dead microbe in our body. Vaccination means we take a dead microbe in our body. So what is the basic concept of vaccination? Vaccination means the introduction of a dead microbe. I'll tell you. A dead microbe, that can be a virus. Now this dead microbe enters the body. Then what will happen in the body? In the body, what is happening? The WBCs are now releasing specific chemical substances, and these specific chemical substances known as antibodies are giving us immunity. You know what is the meaning of immunity? Immunity means the ability of our body to fight diseases. No, that's WBC. WBC. So now, white blood cells. So now I say that what is the meaning of vaccination? The simple thing that you understand right now is, now that we had all taken vaccines for the COVID-19. So what happened? What did we actually take? We had actually taken the dead. We have taken the suspension of the dead virus inside our body. The moment the virus enters our body, but did we suffer from symptoms? No, because the virus was dead. But is the virus a living component? Yes, it is. So by the time it enters our body, our WBC starts understanding that something has entered in our body and it starts releasing antibodies. So we did not suffer from the symptom, and we got immune because of the antibody present in our blood. So within a period of 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, if at all, the virus must have come in contact with our body also. It's not that those of us who took the vaccine after that, the virus did not come in contact. Yes, the virus must have entered our body also, the live virus. But did we suffer from symptoms? No, we did not, because antibodies are already there enough. Is this characteristic only for the animals? No, only for the human? No, for all other animals. And cattle, now that we talk about, these are related animals, no, because these are also mammals. Poultry farming, just to complete with this, very simple there, poultry farming. Now, when we are talking about poultry farming, see there, here also we talk about some indigenous and exotic breeds, first of all. The same concept, just few names, definitions become different. So, when we are talking about poultry farming, why is poultry farming done? When we talk about that, why was cattle farming done? So, we said cattle farming is majorly done for these two purposes. Now, we try to make a change here. So in case of poultry farming, what do you think? Why is poultry farming done? Basically, when you understand poultry farming, meaning farming of the birds, no? Breeding of the birds. Majorly for eggs. And what else? For the flesh also, no? Flesh also, meat also. So when I have to talk about that, what is the need of poultry farming? Two types of food that we get is, first is eggs. Most commonly, a large fraction of people of the world very much depend on these type of food, and a little bit of a lesser fraction would also depend on meat. So now that we are talking about, yes, poultry farming is very, very much widespread, a type of a industry where the two type of production is meat and eggs. Come to the next one. Main aims of crossbreeding experiments. Can you see that underline? Main aims of crossbreeding. What is the main aim of crossbreeding? What has been done here? Already I gave you the definition earlier also with reference to cattle farming.
Crossbreeding for underline.
Underline karo. But definition already I had written. The definition now is not different. Whether you talk about crossbreeding for cattle or you talk about the crossbreeding for poultry, it's one and the same. So what was the definition I gave you? Crossbreeding, what is its significance? Crossbreeding का क्या definition था and significance क्या था?
Formation of improved
varieties, ताकि The improved varieties will always have a whole lot of good characters and then make themselves more adapted to the environment. Then next is, what are some indigenous breeds? Underline now. What are some indigenous and exotic breeds? Can you see some indigenous breeds? Asil, underline that word. Asil. Can you see that? Indigenous breeds. The brown colored poultry that we get to see. The brown colored poultry that we get to see. Did you ever note? When I talk about the indigenous breeds, this is known as the Asil. Which one? We are talking about the common type of poultry, hen, that we are talking about, no? And which is commonly the brown color. But if I talk about the poultry,
yes, hen white maybe with the black maybe.
So that is generally the farm ones, which are actually grown in the farm. The one that normally grows is the brown ones. The brown one, that is the common ones that we talk about, which has got a lesser amount of flesh in the body. But iska economic importance, commercial importance kam hai. Why the flesh is lesser in the body? I talk about a common brown bird weighing some 2 kgs. The amount of flesh will be so less. The bone weight maybe 2 kgs, but flesh weight is much less. But I talk about the white poultry, the farm ones. Farm ones, 1 kg, 1.5 kg means enough amount of flesh. Because the farm ones are actually the broilers that we talk about. Broilers, you know, those of you are at this non-vegetarian, you'll be understanding. The broilers that we talk about, the white ones. The white ones, 1.5 kg means quite an amount of flesh. White ones, these are the consumable ones, are the white ones. But if you just look into the common ones which are around, which are basically not consumed, but the type of egg that they give rise to is more in number. So that's also there. So there are differences. So you're going to understand also some major differences between the layers. These are called the layers and broilers. So underline some terms first of all. That what are some of the indigenous breeds? The indigenous breeds are called what? Underline. Asil. And what about the exotic breeds? Underline. Leghorn. When we are talking about the exotic breeds, Leghorn. Write down the question now. Name the indigenous and exotic breed of poultry. Name the indigenous and exotic breed of poultry. Name the indigenous, put the heading, cattle farming. Same thing. I'm sorry, poultry. Poultry farm.
Indigenous and
exotic breed of poultry. Name the indigenous and exotic breed of poultry. Likho answer.
We have to write about chicks.
No, only one example I asked you to write. No, Asil Likho. That's the most commonly found breed in our country. And Leghorn. Indigenous breed, this one. Exotic Leghorn. Likho fast. Next, mention any 2 desirable traits. Next question. Mention any 2 desirable traits. Mention any 2 desirable traits of desirable traits of crossbreeds. Mention any 2 desirable traits of crossbreeds. You know what is the meaning of crossbreed now? Crossbreed means a hybrid. So desirable trait kya hona chahiye in poultry? What are some of the desirable traits that a breeder would look for? Take the first one. Number and quality of chicks, meaning more number of chicks should be given rise to. Then it's a good quality for the animal, for the bird. Then dwarf broiler parent for commercial chick production. The broiler parent should not be of a great height. There's no need. If the bone growth is high and the bird is too high, too tall, that's just a waste of energy. But the bird may be a little bit dwarf and muscle growth should be more and more number of eggs it should produce. So that's a good quality the breeder looks for. Summer adaptation. What is the meaning of summer adaptation? Quite a number of times, certain breeds of poultry, they get infected or they become very, very inactive during the months of summer. So quite often you must also have been, you also must have heard about this, that whenever now we talk about in the month of May or June, quite often we come across that sometime, I think every year, something around 1 to 2 weeks, we will always hear about the bird flu and all. No, that's quite common during the summertime and also in the extreme winter. So quite often these birds fall prey to a variety of infections. So if a bird can resist, if a type of a bird can adapt, what is the meaning of adaptation? Adaptation means what? To adjust to any type of an environment. So if I'm talking about, yes, if a type of a bird is able to adjust, a type of a breed able to adjust, then the breeder will always look for such type of a bird and breed them in large numbers. The last one is low maintenance. What is the meaning of low maintenance for bird? Can you tell me? Low maintenance मतलब उससे क्या समझ में आ रहा है? Low maintenance
इसमें ज़्यादा efforts नहीं डालना.
हाँ, low maintenance here means that whenever we are talking about these birds, can you just tell me what would be the feed of a bird? Do you know what is the feed of a poultry? Basically, they need some broken cereals. Some broken cereals in a small container. If you give them some broken cereals would include some corn and gram and some rice grains and mix them together. Give them. That is in fact their food. Enough. So how much would these birds eat? Just little bit of those grains. But in return, what are they giving? Excessively nutritive eggs. The eggs are actually high in nutrition and protein. So it is always said that for these birds take in a very, very low cost diet. They always are fed on low cost diet, but they always give rise to high cost products. Whether if you talk about the chicken, whether you talk about the flesh, or you talk about the eggs, both are extremely nutritive. Underline this, low maintenance requirements. Now I asked you a question. Write down that. Mention 2 desirable traits of poultry. Now out of these 4, you write any 2. So which are the 2 most important that you should write? The most 2 important one is number 2, number 4. Number 2, number 4. Very, very important. These 2 points I want you to write down also separately to remember that these are some very important points. देखो. Mention 2 desirable traits of poultry. 2 desirable traits of poultry. Mention 2 desirable traits of poultry. लिखो 2 points, number 2, number 4 लिखना है. Done. Okay, you may write also the 5th point. Now look at the 5th point there. The 5th point is also very important. I wanted to write that down also, though I have asked 2. So this also is a very important point there. Reduction in the size of egg-laying birds. That's a very, very important point. The birds which are egg-laying types, meaning the ones which are not actually marketed for flesh. There will be one type of bird which are sold in the market for flesh, as I told you. That if I talk about the asil type, people who want to buy these birds for flesh, chicken, will they generally prefer to buy birds which have got a small amount of flesh in their body? Obviously no. But the broiler that I'm talking about has got flesh all over the body. So that is as it is, more commercially in demand, that is more in demand. So now that is what we are talking about. See the last point there, reduction in the size of the broiler. So what type of birds are the broilers? Broilers are basically the broilers are basically the type of birds which are marketed for flesh, not for eggs. Broilers, an ability to utilize more cheaper diet using agricultural byproducts. So you are supposed to write reduction in the size of egg-laying birds and ability to utilize cheaper diet, only that much. Cheaper diet, meaning, just now as I told you, poultry is one type of an example of an animal which feeds on cheap diets. Cheap meaning very low cost diet, but they give rise to high cost products. The flesh and the eggs, both high cost products. Now, next is we talk about the nutritional requirements. What are some of the nutritional requirements? What should the this birds that we are talking about, whether you talk about the broilers or you talk about the common variety, the indigenous variety. Now, in this case, whenever we are talking about what type of food they basically require, I said the type of food that they require is actually protein-rich food. The type of food that they require is basically protein-rich food. Underline there. Broiler chickens are always fed with vitamin-rich supplement. Underline, vitamin-rich supplementary food. Vitamin-rich supplementary food. Vitamin-rich. The food should be vitamin-rich. Vitamin-rich. Next is come to management practices. Under management practices, what is the meaning of this? Management practice means how should we take care of the cattle? Now, suppose if you and me, we have to start up a cattle farm or the poultry farm. I'm sorry. Do we have enough knowledge or basic information about how to take care of these animals? Probably not, because the process of taking care of the cattle, yes. किसकी वजह से? क्यों?
टच किया सर्दी हो गया, बिल्कुल भी सर्दी हो गया, टच किया सर्दी हो गया। दिया इधर हुआ है तो सही, मतलब पूरा ये हो गया। खड़ा मुझे ऐसा नहीं कर, खड़ा पड़। कैसे करते हैं इसको? क्या? जैसे हमारे को पता है, कुछ भी मुझे नुस्खे बताता है, बोलता है सांस अंदर लो एक बार, बाहर लो, ऐसे से लो। झूठ नहीं है, हम करके ऐसे 4 सेकंड अंदर 6 सेकंड बाद।
Listen. I can leave you maybe 5 minutes early, the last second lecture. After that, you can teach them all the yoga tips. Not now. Now, underline the next sentence there. Management practices. What do we understand by this? Management practices meaning what are some of the special steps that we should follow when we are talking about poultry care? Take the second point there. Maintenance and temperature. Maintenance, temperature, proper hygienic condition. Now, why proper hygienic condition? So that they are not affected by any type of infection. They are not affected by any type of disease and pest. Underline, disease and pest, say we have to keep them safe. Next is third point. The nutritional and environmental requirements of the broilers are different from those of layers. Underline these two words, broilers and layers. What do you understand by these two? These are the two types of varieties of poultry. What are the two varieties of poultry? So I already said that just like the cattle, what were the two varieties of cattle? Draught and milch. Here also we are talking about egg layers. These are known as layers basically. Egg layers and broilers. So broilers and egg layers. So whenever we are talking about broilers, what are broilers? Which type of birds they are? The ones which have got adequate flesh. So the type of food given to the broilers are also different. The type of food that has to be given to the broiler should be the ones which should help in muscle growth, full of protein and adequate amount of fiber also. But the ones which has to be given to the layers is just protein and rich in vitamins, so that the egg is extensively nutritive. Layers means egg laying ones. Fourth point, very, very important. Tick karo. Fourth point, the ration. Underline the word ration. What is ration? The meal, the food that is given to poultry. The ration, that is the food requirement, is always protein rich with adequate fat for the broilers. Underline. The ration for the cattle, what did we learn? Concentrates and roughage. Roughage and concentrates. Now here for broilers, for the birds, we are talking about ration. What is the meaning of the word ration? A particular feed given to the broilers, and they should be rich in, underline, proteins and rich in fat. Rich in fat. And what type of vitamin should be adequate? Vitamin, underline, vitamin A and K. Vitamin A and K should be always high in them. Vitamin A and K. What type of diseases generally poultry would suffer from? Does these birds basically suffer from diseases? Yes. They also suffer from a whole lot of diseases, such as they may have ticks and fleas on their feathers. They may have a variety of worm infections in their intestine. They may have a variety of other different type of skin infections on their skin deep down into the feathers. So these birds also, they may have bacterial infection, fungal infection. They may have fungal infection of the viruses, infection by various different type of worms. So almost all, like the human, they also suffer from variety of infections. Tick till here. I'll give you a break now. 5 minutes break you may have, 5-10 minutes break, and after that we are going to continue again with the preventive measures. What type of prevention to take? We'll try to complete. Little bit only is left in this chapter. We'll be done with this chapter today. First,
Fish production, right?
preventive measures of poultry.
Check. मुझे नाम ही कैसे बोला भाई? ये नाम ही कैसे बोला? तुझे नाम ही कैसे बोला था? हाँ? सुन जब भी मैं लास्ट लेक्चर में जाएगी ना बस 26 PM में कहता वो सीधा कॉल आएगा करेंगे तभी तो ये मैं स्टार्ट करूंगा 30 बार